All right, well, good evening, everyone. It being 6:02 p.m, I will declare open the Ordinary Council meeting of the Shire of Capel for the 26th of April 2023. We wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting on, the Wadandi people. We wish to acknowledge and respect their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay our respects to all members of the Aboriginal communities and their culture, and to their elders past and present, their descendants who are with us today, and those who will follow in their footsteps. Record of attendance, we have 7 councillors in attendance tonight. We also have Councillor Mogg attending this evening via teleconference. I just have a small thing to read out. Councillor Mogg has requested to attend the meeting in accordance with the Local Government Act Regulation 14C 2B and 14C 5. Councillor Mogg has declared she is able to maintain confidentiality when required to from her location. Shire President has approved her request, therefore Councillor Mogg will be attending via telephone. There are no responses to previous public questions taken on notice, so we now move to public question time. I have 2 questions on notice, the first being from Joan Lass-Kelly of Jalorup. You can have a little bit of context.
So it's regarding the large habitat trees that are remaining in Jalorup. When the subdivisions happened, they were, as you know, marked with an H, the large habitat trees. There are several. I'm concerned about some around Loretta Avenue either side because of the subdivisions. They seem to, well, we have seen 2 or 3 close just being felled. So my question, and some of those, like there's one on our property which is over 300 years old. The question one is, does the Shire have a register for these habitat trees? And secondly, what protection does each tree, that is each habitat tree, which is marked because obviously its preciousness, what protection does it have before and after the purchase of the property?
Thank you, Joan, for your question and for submitting it prior to the meeting so we can give you a detailed answer. The Shire does not currently have any policies that prohibit the removal of vegetation on private land, nor require an assessment of mature trees of significant value, other than applying a building envelope required to the site. For sites with the building development requirement, clearing cannot occur outside the designated section of land, unless for the purposes of complying with fire breaks or bushfire requirements, or a development application has been approved that includes permission to remove trees. The Shire has recognised the need to adopt a planning framework to enable a greater power to ensure landowners retain trees that are of value or significance. A local draft planning policy has been drafted with complement provisions to the Shire's draft local planning scheme number 8 to create a significant tree register. The register will allow for the public to lodge nominations to retain trees with the permission of the landowner on which the trees reside. A Shire panel will then assess nominations on a yearly basis and provide a list of recognised trees to the council to adopt and induct. And to your second question, through the subdivision and planning process, any tree in a building envelope can be identified and retained or cleared. Currently, the Shire liaises with developers where possible to avoid these trees by negotiating the shape and position of the building envelope. These recommendations are then passed on to the West Australian Planning Commission, who take this into consideration when determining subdivisions. Thank you. And next we have Mr. Warren Metcalf of Jalorup.
Yeah, good evening. I'm here with 2 of my friends here. We're concerned families in Jalorup, and we're not the only ones. We've formed a group called the Crossing the Bustle Highway Initiative, and in doing so we will be conversing and hopefully meeting with the relative authorities with the aim of having a sensible and safe method of crossing the highway, so that all Jallurup and Dalyellop residents can do so without fear. In particular, for all our children, there's a growing amount of children now in Jallurup. It's sort of, to me, it seems there's a bit of a passing of the guard now. New families moving in, new facilities getting built in Dalyellop, and our kids can't get there. So that's what we're aiming for, to get to their schools, to their friends, in the future to their work across there, and all the youth spaces being built. We believe that some sort of crossing may be in the plans for the Bore. Is the Shire, so my first question is the Shire aware of this? And do you want me to keep going for the second question now and let you finish off? Yeah, cool. If the answer is yes, we would like to be involved in the process, to be the spokespeople for the greater community and to ensure it meets everyone's expectations. And if the answer is no, we are asking for the Shire's support. We will be seeking support from other areas too to plead our case to the relative authorities, including local MPs and schools, to name a few, and we're hoping we can count on the Shire as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Warren, for your questions. For your first question, the Shire agrees that the current arrangements for having people cross the Bustle Highway, either by car, bike or walking, is challenging and could be substantially improved. The Shire has been liaising for some time with Main Roads WA regarding the future intersection designs at Ferndale Road, Norton Promenade and Hasty Road to improve crossing safety and ease. As these intersections are built or upgraded, a ground level crossing will improve. Several informal proposals have been raised regarding an overhead crossing. However, these have not been realised, primarily due to the cost and limitations of available road reserve on either side. And to your second question, any further proposal would be publicly advertised and allow for community and stakeholder input and involvement. Are there any further questions from the floor? No? All right, we'll move on to applications for leave of absence. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was seeking a leave of absence for the June meeting.
June OCM. Are there any further applications? Councillor Tarantroy.
I'd like to have a leave of absence for the November meeting, please.
Thank you. Any further applications? No. All right, is there a mover for Councillor McCleary to have leave of absence for the June Ordinary Council meeting and Councillor Tarantroy to have the November Ordinary Council meeting? Moved, Councillor Dillon. A seconder, Councillor Sciano. I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? And that's carried unanimous. Oops, sorry, no. Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're voting for or against the applications for leave of absence?
I'm for.
And that is carried unanimous. Declarations of interest. We have one this evening from Councillor Sebastian Sciano on item 14.7, supply of excavator. It's an impartiality interest. There are no notice of items to be discussed behind closed doors, so we now move on to the confirmation of the minutes. 8.1, the ordinary meeting of the Council for the 29th of March 2023. Is there a mover for those minutes? Councillor Tarantroy, a seconder. Councillor Andrew. Councillor Tarantroy, any discussion? Councillor Andrew. Is there anything on those minutes? Nothing to close, Councillor Tarantroy? I'll put those minutes to the vote. Those in favour? Sorry, I didn't see your hands then. Those in favour? Councillor Mogg, do you wish to vote for or against the minutes?
I'm for.
And those minutes are carried unanimous. Announcements by the presiding member without discussion. I have no announcements other than to say that I will be providing a activity report in the agenda going forward on a 2-month rolling basis. There are no petitions, deputations or presentations, and there are no motions of which previous notice has been given, and there are no questions of which previous notice has been given. We now move on to section 13, Chief Executive Officer reports. 13.1, the CEO Performance Agreement 2022 to 2023, mid-year review. Is there a mover for that recommendation? Mover, Councillor Dillon. Is there a seconder? Councillor Noonan. Councillor Dillon.
Not much to really say here, Mr. President. Thank you for the opportunity. Look, the mid-year review, I would like to point out my vote of confidence in our CEO. I think he's doing an outstanding job. A lot of what maybe wasn't achieved in this particular review is more a carryover of projects that weren't able to be completed in the previous financial, so no, wholeheartedly recommend as presented.
Councillor Noonan.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I concur with Councillor Dillon. I think we're travelling very well. I think the CEO is doing a very good job, and he's very ably supported by the staff. So it's good to see.
Are there any other speakers to the item? No. Councillor Dillon, do you wish to close? I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're voting for or against the item?
I'm for.
And that motion is carried unanimous. 13.2, Corporate Business Plan 2022 to 2026, Quarter 3 Review, July 2022 to March 2023. Is there a mover for that officer's recommendation? Councillor McCleary. Is there a seconder? Councillor Tarantroy. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's pretty well spelled out in the notes, and there's good progress in the corporate reporting.
Councillor Tarantroy. Sorry, Councillor Tarantroy, you have the call? No? Are there any speakers for or against that item? No. Does the mover wish to close? No. I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're for or against the item?
I'm for.
And that item is carried unanimously. 13.3, the annual meeting of electors, rescheduled meeting date. Is there a mover for that recommendation? Councillor McCleary. Is there a seconder? Councillor Noonan. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. President. It was a bit disappointing with the electronic process in that why we had to move it, but it was well handled, and we had a reasonably successful meeting with a few motions moved, which we'll see come to a meeting in the near future.
Councillor Noonan. Are there any further speakers for or against that item? Councillor Tarantroy.
I just want to say that I agree with Councillor McCleary. When technology works well, but when it doesn't, it can really mess things up. And I think the staff did a really good job of finding out the issue by listening to people who called in and to investigate why staff could see the whole document, and yet people, the everyday person, couldn't access the same as what staff could. And so, yeah, it got fixed up, and that's why we had to move the meeting, and it was a good outcome. Thank you.
Are there any further speakers for or against that item? No. Councillor McCleary, do you wish to close?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, it's one of those important meetings in the community's life of having the electors meeting, because it's the first opportunity where they get to ask questions and actually move in motions and vote on them. So it's critical in that, and as we found out, there was a few done on the night, and yeah, my hat's off to those people that attended that meeting. Thanks.
I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're for or against the item?
I'm for.
And that item is carried unanimously. 13.4, Amendment to Representation for the Development Assessment Panel. Is there a mover? Councillor Sciano. A seconder? Councillor Andrew. The Deputy President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think I just want to provide, I guess, some background in how this has come about. So we have, for as long as I've been on council, we've always assigned a deputy to a specific member of JDAP, which I don't think has caused us any major, or to DAP anyway, any major grief in the past. But since I've been appointed as a deputy for Councillor Andrew, on 2 occasions I've been requested to sit on a JDAP, in which Councillor Andrew was also present, therefore proxy for Councillor McCleary. On the first occasion, the meeting was postponed or cancelled, so that issue was resolved through that process. But there, you would have noticed a comment last week that I was an apology from a recent JDAP meeting, and how that came about was that I had been approached to sit on JDAP again, in this situation again as a proxy to Councillor McCleary, which I was not authorised to be deputy for by this council. And myself and Shire staff went to JDAP for advice, and they were given the advice that in JDAP's eyes it was not of concern for them. They didn't need this proxy situation or this proxy format, and they were comfortable, but I did make the decision in the 24 hours leading up to that meeting, having gone back and forth over the following week with JDAP, to put my foot down and say that I would not attend. I think that if I did attend, I would have been attending that meeting with no authority by council, and I think it would have jeopardised the process, particularly if the applicant wasn't happy with the outcome. What we did learn in that process is that there is no need in JDAP's perspective or eyes that there should be a specific deputy to each delegate to JDAP. And so, yes, I in the very last minute, the conversation had gone over with them for a week, and they were very confused about who was deputy for who and why they had contacted me when they probably shouldn't have. I'd made myself available for the time, but over contemplating it, I thought that the compliance risk of me sitting on that JDAP meeting were too high, and therefore in days before I advised them, and the Shire advised them, that I wouldn't be doing so. As a result, and not that I requested this, but staff have obviously taken the initiative, and we're rectifying that council decision tonight. So that's just a bit of background on that process. I've been invited to JDAP a couple of times now, and I'm still yet to sit on one, because I think Councillor Andrews' attendance has been impeccable. So I haven't been able to sit on one yet, but I might actually get the chance now with this. So yeah, just some background. I understand I was recognised as an apology at the last meeting, but I think I made the right decision not to attend, or to advise that I was ineligible to sit on that JDAP. And so, yeah, rectifying that tonight. there's any questions, perhaps we can ask them through the chair.
Councillor Andrew.
Thank you. Nothing really more to add other than just Councillor Sciano summed that up nicely.
Are there any further speakers to the item? Councillor Tarantroy.
Yes, I was elected as the deputy chair for Councillor McCleary, and I had difficulty in doing that for him on numerous occasions in my just under 2 years on council. The couple of times that he's asked me to, it's clashed with my other commitments, and this change will make an improved change for council and give 2 deputies the opportunity to fill in for the other 2 councillors who are elected to JDAP. So I think this is a really good outcome, and I commend the staff for looking further into this and finding a solution that we don't need to have allocated deputies. We can have 2 deputies and they can sit on either or stand in for either councillor. Thank you.
Are there any further speakers on the item? Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. President. Look, I just point out that this ensures a better outcome for the representation of the Shire by having the deputies, either deputy out to fill in for either of us. And we did miss one opportunity where we were down in number. So let's hope that doesn't happen again. Thanks.
Are there any further speakers to the item? No? Does the mover wish to close? I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're for or against the item?
I'm for.
And that item is carried unanimous. We now move to infrastructure and development reports. 14.1, development application, Capel Regional Equestrian Park, club premises, kitchen and ablutions. There is a fairly large recommendation for this one. Is there a mover for that item? Councillor Tarantroy. Is there a seconder? Councillor Andrew. Councillor Tarantroy.
If Councillor Rosina Mogg was here in person, she would have probably moved this one, so I'm doing that for her tonight. She's on the phone. I think this is well overdue, and I think this is a wonderful thing for our equestrian folk and for the club and for the Shire of Capel and the greater riding community who access club facilities now and into the future. Thank you.
Councillor Andrew.
Thank you. I agree. If Councillor Mogg had have been here, she would have loved to have moved this motion and spoken to this. This has been one of her babies since she started on council. But I wholeheartedly agree that the CREP is a great facility for us to have in our Shire. This upgrade is well and truly overdue. And just, it is such a good asset to the community. I can't explain how much what they draw in is just fabulous for the community and the Shire of Capel Centre with the shops and all those sorts of things that then get utilised on their equestrian weekends. But I'm so happy to see this off the ground finally. This is so overdue.
Are there any other speakers to the item? Councillor Tarantroy, do you wish to close? I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're for or against the item?
I'm for.
And that is carried unanimous. 14.2, local planning policies final approval. This recommendation has final approval for local planning policies 6.1, vehicle parking, 6.3, exemptions for minor development, 6.4, significant trees, 6.5, heritage protected places, and 6.6, home-based businesses. Is there a mover for that item? Councillor Sciano. Is there a seconder? Councillor McCleary. The Deputy President.
Not much to say here, Mr. President, apart from the fact, I mean, these have come to council before they went to advertising. We've had a couple of opportunities to see these. I think each time I pointed out, obviously a significant trees register is a big thing that we've heard from the community a lot. And I mean, this is to endorse that policy. So they've gone through the process. They're back here tonight. It's up to council to endorse them.
Councillor McCleary. Are there any speakers against this item? Speakers for? Councillor Andrew, question?
Sorry. The significant trees.
Yep.
Is that habitat trees as well, or there's a different marker for their significance?
I believe it's trees that are nominated. Any tree can be nominated before the panel, and then the Shire can then determine that and add it to the register. So it could be a remnant tree, or it could be a planted tree of local significance.
So if I could, so does a habitat tree qualify as a tree of significance or no?
It needs to be nominated to be on the list. It's not an automatic.
Yeah, but if
yeah.
you nominate it and that's kind of the only thing that's remarkable about it is that it's a habitat tree, does that qualify it to be nominated? Does that make sense?
In essence, any tree is eligible to be nominated.
Perfect.
Yep. Where was I? Are there any speakers for or against the item? The Deputy President.
I might just use my opportunity to speak just to point out clause 3.3.5, trees ecological significance. 3.3.5 is trees, which is a significant habitat element for rare, threatened, priority or locally uncommon or common native species. And this is under the clause 3 relates to criteria as defined to enable a significance tree to be assessed. Does not guarantee, of course, that the tree would be recognised or placed on the register, but it does recognise habitat as a criteria.
Are there any further speakers for or against the item? Councillor Tarantroy?
I just wanted to say I put my hand up, but Councillor Shishano beat me to it. Thank you.
Are there any further speakers on the item? Okay. Does the mover wish to close? I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're for or against the item?
I'm for.
And that's carried unanimous. (14.3) Program of Works 2023/24 car parks. Is there a mover for that item? Councillor McCleary. Is there a seconder? Councillor Tarantroy. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do note a lot of the cost increases in here because of inflationary things, and also it's moved into the next year because of a late setting up of the program of work. So there's been a bit of due diligence in the background that's brought this to council, and I commend the motion. recommendation.
Councillor Terran-Troy.
Just to reiterate what Councillor McCleary said, and I think that the financial risk is high, so we really do need to vote for this program of works so that it can get off the ground, because as we know, resources are getting more and more expensive. Therefore, all of these works, when we put them off, become more expensive. So thank you.
Are there any speakers against that item? Question, Councillor Andrew.
Thank you. Why are we installing curbs at the Rich Road car park? What benefit do they provide?
The Chief Executive Officer.
Through you, Chair, the curb is curb repairs, so it would only be repairs to any existing curbs that need it at the Rich Road car park. It's not the intention to install any more curbs than isn't already there.
Yep. Are there any other speakers on that item? Councillor McCleary, do you wish to close? I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? And those against? Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're for or against the item?
I'm for.
And that's carried 7-1. 14.4, Program of Works 2023-2024, Public Open Spaces. Is there a mover for that item? Councillor Terran-Troy. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sciano. Councillor Terran-Troy.
So yet again, this is another program of works for public open spaces. So I just want to support the staff and all the hard work that they've done with this program of works. It's to benefit our residents, and like with shade cloth, playground replacement, playground shading, all of those things that are really important. And I think that the irrigation mapping and improvements across the Shire, which we've seen in Dalyellup in particular of late, with the failure of our bores and having to redo all the bores. So this is really stuff that needs to happen, and I'd like to see these things happen to maintain the facilities that we have and to improve them. Thank you.
The Deputy President. Are there any speakers against this item? Councillor McCleary, a question?
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you. I note in the item it mentions the potential funding coming from Saddleys. How confident are we in achieving that?
The Chief Executive Officer.
Through you, Shire President. So we're very confident that Saddleys will contribute towards the review of the integrated Dalyellup's lake water management strategy. We haven't yet confirmed a dollar figure, but we're very confident they've, even before, I guess, the challenges that we had with the irrigation at Dalyellup, they were even speaking then about the need to review the strategy because it was done in 2018. Many things have changed since that time, so we're very confident we'll get a contribution from Saddleys.
Are there any other speakers to the item? Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just an observation, really, that about 88% of the funding for this program of works for public open space is being spent in Dalyellup. I think that's important to make that known. Simply to give or to reassure residents in Dalyellup that the extra money that they put in with the special area contribution that they make does get returned to them to upgrade, to maintain the parks and gardens that they enjoy in an appropriate manner. So I think that's important to make that point. And I fully endorse the program. I think it's looks good.
Are there any other speakers to the item? Councillor Dillon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it is also worth pointing out, and while this is sort of moving towards the future, it also says in here the focus of 23-24 Public Open Space Program of Works will include asset data collection to inform the Public Open Space Asset Management Plan moving into the future. And I think for those of us who've been in the workshops and heard a bit about the thinking of some of the Shire staff about moving forward, we're going to have a close critical, and I don't want to dig myself into a hole here, but we're going to have a close critical look at all our public open spaces, probably determine, which ones are utilised the most, which are utilised the least, and then being able to look at them moving forward and objectively say, well, this is the sort of standard we want for this kind of park, or this kind of park, or this kind of park. So I know that might all sound very vague now, but I think it's very important that our residents and ratepayers can understand that we're looking at this quite critically in the medium term, and I think the outcome will be fantastic, especially from an aesthetic point of view and also probably a value for money point of view for our residents and ratepayers.
Are there any further speakers to the item? Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. President. One of the things that's come out here is representing a bit of safety for our community in the turf renovation program, which is very important. And we all know that a few dollars spent in the sporting facilities is a good lift to community health. So there's a substantial amount of money in the turf renovation program, which makes up the majority of this cost. So yeah, it's good. And we also had the issue last year where Boyanup Sporting Oval was taken out of commission for a period, and that's mentioned in this item. So we want to kind of avoid that, so it's a good plan going forward.
Are there any further speakers? Councillor Andrew.
Thank you. I'll actually draw on Councillor Noonan's point and actually say that I'm really disappointed that 88% of this program of works is centred in Dalyellup. I don't think that it's sustainable to continue spending $800,000 a year on the open spaces in Dalyellup to the detriment, because we don't have endless funds, so it has to be to the detriment of the open spaces in our other areas. So I won't be supporting this item. I've been a supporter and an advocate for a long time that these programs of works need to consist of programs spread out across our Shire, and continually they are lopsided and favoured to Dalyellup. I understand that they constitute 50% of our rates revenue base, and I understand that they pay the additional parks and gardens levy, but the money that gets spent at Dalyellup, they get their rates returned well in excess of what they actually contribute, and I don't think it's sustainable, and I don't think that it's fair that the other ratepayers in the areas that are getting neglected in the Shire keep propping up the services and bettering the services and facilities in Dalyellup. So I won't be supporting this item tonight.
Are there any further speakers? The Deputy President.
Mr. President, I've just got a question, however you'd like to direct it, just in regards to the funding. Does this program of works draw any funds from the reserve of special area levies?
The Director of Community and Corporate.
Hello, thank you for your question through the Chair. As it states in the report, the funds that's attributed to the programme of works is mainly going to be drawn from municipal funds itself.
So, Mr. President, so mainly drawn from municipal funds, so am I right to assume the special area levy, there's no funds being pulled from that reserve for this program.
The Director of Community and Corporate.
Yeah, through the Shire President. So mainly refers to whatever we get from Satterley in terms of an uplift to be able to fund the deficit as we're taking from municipal. And the money that we take from the specified area rate is already contracted out within the programme of works that we do for the public open space in Dalyellop. This is works over and above that.
Thank you, that's all. Yep.
Are there any further speakers? Councillor Terrantroy, do you wish to close?
Yeah, I do. Basically, yes, a lot of these works are within Dalyellop. Dalyellop is the largest residential population of the Shire of Capel, has a lot of young families who access these facilities. A lot of these facilities, like the sporting grounds, are there for everyone's benefit. And people from other localities within the Shire, and indeed outside the Shire, can access a lot of these facilities within the Dalyellop public open spaces. In regards to the special area rates levy, as Councillor Andrews said, it doesn't cover, and it only covers approximately 50% of the actual cost of upkeeping those areas. Now, and because it was an age, so this is all sort of very, it's quite a hot topic in the community, and I understand that. However, the main things about these things, once a Shire a developer comes in, sets up a community, then it's handed over to the Shire or the council, and they have to keep those facilities safe. That's on the onus of them, and the only revenue that we have, besides grant funding and monies that go into them into the funds from, say, Satterley developments, and is rates from the residents. Now, it is a very hot topic, and I understand why people get upset, but this is a pretty balanced approach to the long-term management of open public spaces that are accessible to anyone who visits Dalyellop. You don't even have to come from Dalyellop to access it. It's not a gated community. It's not for people who've got lots of money and can afford private security companies and live in a gated security. These are everyday people. And I believe that our Shire of Capel has a lot of diversity within our Shire. We have farmers, we have local businesses, we have small businesses, we have new businesses starting up. We have so much opportunity, but we need to support these families and the people in our community by giving them public access to open spaces that don't cost them anything to utilise. Kids' birthday parties down at the park, taking, the mums who take and the dads and the grandparents and the older brothers and sisters who take their younger siblings to the park to enjoy it. They don't have to just come from Dalyellop. I think that ensuring playground safety and is paramount, and we have to do this in a timely manner. We have to be able to consider the lifespan of all of this equipment and replace it when it's unsafe. And I think that these are assets that our community utilises, and they don't have to pay to use them except through their rates. They don't have to pay a cover charge to take their kids to a indoor fun centre. I won't name any businesses within the Bunbury greater area, but these are free things and healthy things, like the sporting ovals. I mean, we know that active families are healthy families, and the best way to do that is by having these costs, providing really good ovals and sporting grounds for clubs and residents. I know I'm very passionate about this because as a teacher I care about kids, I care about parents, I care about the community. And as a local community volunteer, I care about these things, and this is why I think we need to vote for this. Thank you.
I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're for or against the item?
I'm for.
And that's carried 7-1. 14.5, policy review, trading in public places. There are 2 recommendations to this item. First, to revoke the existing policy and then adopt the presented policy this evening. So, for the first item, I need a mover and a seconder and a seconder. So can I please have a mover for that revocation? Councillor McCleary. A seconder, Councillor Noonan. And the seconder, Councillor Sciano. Councillor McCleary.
This is just for the revoking part of the first, or we're voting on both at once?
This is just a revoke.
Yeah, righto. It's pretty straightforward, that.
Councillor Noonan. Deputy President. Is there any discussion on that item? No. The mover has nothing further. I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're for or against that revocation?
I'm for.
That's carried unanimous. We now move to the second recommendation. Is there a mover for that item? Councillor Noonan. A seconder. Councillor Sciano. Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Mr. President. For a moment there, I had a terrible sort of premonition that we might end up without having a trading in public places policy. So I thought I'd better get in and move it. I commend it to the rest of the council as it makes sense. It's a good policy. It's been well written. It helps to provide clarity for stall holders and traders who come along, identifying the locations where we can have markets and those sorts of things. So it's yeah, I think it's a good policy, and I think we should support it.
The Deputy President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I mean, we could really start arguing this one just to give the staff some chills, as we've got no policy for the next 2 minutes. I hope everyone's stopped selling donuts in Dayalup for the next 2 minutes. But I mean, at the end of the day, the Shire's contacted all the existing traders in the Shire who currently trade in these public spaces, and not had any objections from those 8. So it's good enough for me.
Are there any speakers against that item? Speakers for? Councillor Tarantroy.
Just to summarise that, yes, I agree that this is a great policy. It provides consistent approach to the approval of traders selling goods and services from stalls and mobile trucks and other trading options. Yes, all 8 were contacted, and that currently use this, the old policy that we just got rid of, and a replacement policy which is consistent and makes it easier and for traders to understand, and also for staff to approve and disapprove. So when I say disapprove, I meant to approve them trading. So it just makes it clear to everybody. And I commend the staff on their hard work and diligence with this new policy. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers to this item? Councillor Noonan, do you wish to close? I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're for or against the item?
I'm for.
And that is carried unanimous. 14.6, Local Planning Policy LPP 6.14, Temporary Residential Accommodation, Resolution to Advertise. Is there a mover? Councillor McCleary. Is there a seconder? Councillor Dillon. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is probably a little bit of a unique policy. At least it gives some guidance to temporary residential accommodation. This is recommendation is to allow advertising the draft for public comment. So at this stage, it'll come back to council for a further decision.
Councillor Dillon. Is there any speakers for or against this item? Councillor McCleary, do you have anything further? I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're for or against the item?
I'm for.
And that is carried unanimous. 14.7, supply of excavator, compact truck loader and attachments. Councillor Sciano has declared an impartiality interest in this item. Is there a mover for this item? Councillor Andrew. Is there a seconder? Councillor McCleary. Councillor Andrew.
Don't really have much to say, other than I think that this is a good outcome for the Shire. Yeah, it's a loader.
Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. President. And it's a good move to purchase this piece of equipment. There's been a lot of work done by staff to get a good outcome and present this to us. So yeah, I totally endorse the recommendation.
Are there any other speakers on this item? Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just an observation, really, that it's a good sign of economic competition that we had 9 tenderers. I think that's a good situation for the Shire to be in, and it suggests that, that just the fact that there are that number of suppliers who are keen to provide that sort of service is very encouraging, I think, for the economy.
Are there any other speakers? Councillor Tarantroy.
Look, I think this is another good move by the Shire staff, and I commend the staff on the quality of this purchase and the tender process, because this gives the Capel Shire an opportunity to demonstrate faster response times and reflect a higher level of service to the community in overall reducing operating costs for specific services delivered by increased efficient in operating appropriate plant, fleet and equipment. So this is a no-brainer to me. It saves money, so it's a good thing. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers? Councillor Dillon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to compliment Councillor Andrew on her technical elaboration on this particular item. I think it certainly revealed a lot about her understanding of heavy machinery. And I would also like to say I'm sure there's some staff at the depot who'd be most happy if this item gets passed, which I hope it is.
Are there any further speakers? Question, Councillor Andrew.
Thank you. We discussed in the last week or so at somewhere about sharing machinery and equipment through local shires. So this one is going to be ours, but then we talk about in the background about the other machine that we're not purchasing. So am I right in assuming that we're not purchasing that because we can borrow one from a neighbouring shire, and that neighbouring shires will in turn borrow this one from us? Is that how that's going to work?
Yeah, so as I discussed last week at the annual electors meeting, the Shire, we had allocated a significant amount in our budget for our own purchase of our own jet patcher, road repair machine. Through our discussions with our regional neighbours, the City of Bunbury revealed that they have one that is used for 2 weeks of the year. So we saw an opportunity there. And so staff have been negotiating around the use of that. So what that's allowed us to then do, as is proposed tonight and subject to council decision, is for that money to be reallocated to machines that our own staff could get more use out of. and potentially, if another local government approached us wanting to use them, if we had any downtime on them, they as well could lease them back off us. Right. Anything further from the council? Never said that before. Councillor Andrew, do you wish to close?
Other than to thank Councillor Dillon for his acknowledgement that I know that it's a loader and didn't just refer to it as a big truck.
I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're for or against the item?
I'm for.
And that is carried unanimous. We now move to community and corporate reports. 15.1, Churches of Christ Sport and Recreation Association request for fee waiver. Is there a mover for that item? Councillor Noonan. Is there a seconder? Councillor Dillon. Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a motion to waive, or to not waive entirely the fees, but to halve the fees, the normal facility hire fees for the Hugh Kilpatrick Hall in Boynup in June, for the Churches of Christ who are running a youth sport program. And we've done it for the last, well, several years. I can't remember how many it is in there, how long it's been going. Yeah, since 2008. And it's a way that the Shire has helped to support that program for youth, not just in the Shire but in the greater region. And I think it's a good opportunity for young people to get together and in a healthy atmosphere and to enjoy each other's company, and I think it's a good thing for us to be behind and to support in that way.
Councillor Dillon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, not much more to add, really. I mean, ultimately, it means we get a few more people to our beautiful Shire experiencing the joys of Boynup, and I'd like to welcome them with open arms, and I can't see that a little fee waiver on this level is going to damage the finances to any great degree. Thank you.
Are there any speakers against that item? Speakers for? Councillor Tarantroy.
I think this sort of tradition of supporting sporting clubs, whether they're religious or and having like a cheaper rate to stay over 3 nights, also brings money into Boynup. So if they need anything, they will go to the local shops. The kids might want an ice cream one day, so they will go and enjoy those facilities. And so I think this is a great money earner for local business as well. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers to that item? Councillor Noonan, do you wish to close? No. I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're for or against the item?
I'm against.
And that item is carried 7-1. My apologies, I forgot to state at the beginning of this evening's meeting that item 15.2, Arts, Culture and Heritage Policy, has been withdrawn from this evening's agenda. So we now move to item 15.3, accounts paid during the month of March 2023. Is there a mover for those accounts? Councillor Andrew. Is there a seconder? Councillor McCleary. Councillor Andrew. Councillor McCleary. Is there any discussion on those accounts? No, nothing further from the mover. I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're for or against the item?
I'm for.
And that's carried unanimously. 15.4, financial statements for the 28th of February 2023. Is there a mover for those statements? Councillor McCleary. Is there a seconder? Councillor Dillon. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move the motion that the council receives the monthly financial statements for the period ending on 28th of February. And on top of that, I'd like to bring people's attention to some of the ratios that are in the attachment, in particular the asset replacement ratio, which is quite low, so we need to keep an eye on that. I also note that in the charts, it looks like we're heading for a bit of an underspend in the capital for the year. So that's possibly things are going to be carried forward again. It looks like it's trending somewhere between the budget and last year's things, which is a sign of the time of being able to get resources to do some of the work that we've got out there. So it'll get delays in there by the looks of it, and a large carryover maybe going to reserves.
Councillor Dillon. Are there any speakers for or against that item? Anything further from the mover? I'll put that item to the vote. Those in favour? Councillor Mogg, can you please state whether you're for or against those statements?
I'm for.
And that is carried unanimous. There is no new business of an urgent nature as we move to public question time. Is there any questions from the floor? No? All right. Are there any motions without notice? No. Are there any notice of motions for consideration at the next ordinary meeting of the council? No. There are no items for consideration behind closed doors, and there being no further business on this evening's agenda, I will declare the meeting closed at 7:04 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance.